Did you know that there was once a time in American history when almost everyone lived on farms? Ever wonder what it was like to live in a log cabin like the settlers of the Midwest did? Let's go on our own adventure to see what it was like. In 1800, almost every American lived on a farm. At this time, most of these farms were east of the Appalachian Mountains. Soon, settlers went looking for new land to farm on the other side of these mountains. In this region, there were vast forests. As farmers traveled further west, the forest got thinner. Eventually, settlers found nothing but a flat, gentle, rolling prairie. This is the Midwest. Some farmers liked the prairie because they did not have to cut down any trees in order to start planting their crops. Clearing trees and planting crops was hard work. So, what kind of tools did farmers use to do all of that hard work? One tool is the axe, which was used to cut down trees. Tree wood was cut up and used for log cabins, furniture, and fences. Another tool is the plow. This had an iron blade that was used to drag across a field to make a furrow. A furrow is a long groove made in the soil for planting seeds. Plowing the thick prairie soil was very slow and hard work, even if the farmer was lucky enough to have a pair of oxen to pull the plow. To harvest their grain crops, farmers would use a scythe. A scythe is a curved knife on a long handle. The next step would be to use a flail, a tool used for beating harvest grain. This would thresh the grain. Thresh means to separate grain seeds from the rest of the plant.
Today we're making a log cabin.
Before we continue discovering what early farm life was like, let's take a moment to build our own log cabin, just like the one settlers may have lived in. For this craft, the materials you need are an empty, small milk carton or juice container, brown construction paper, some crayons, scissors, clear tape, and glue. Step 1. Make sure the container is cleaned and dry. Step 2. Fold the top together, then cut the piece that was glued together off the top. Tape the carton together so that it looks like a normal roof. Step 3. Fold a brown sheet of construction paper in half. Then, fold the paper in half one more time. Open both folds and, with your scissors, cut both fold lines. Get a grown-up's help with using the scissors. Fold and cut several more sheets of construction paper to have plenty of pieces for the next step. Step 4. Wrap the pieces of construction paper around a pencil to form a log. Use tape to hold it together. Remove the pencil carefully without tearing the paper. Make enough of these logs to cover the sides of the carton. Step 5. Glue the logs onto the milk carton walls to make a log cabin. Trim ends as needed. Make the roof and windows with more construction paper and crayons to draw the windows. And there you go! How much fun was that? You made your very own log cabin. Now that we have made our own miniature log cabin, let's get back to the year 1800 to see what a family farm was like. Let's start with that log cabin. A log cabin would have been the first farmhouse most families would have built. Cabins were typically one room with a stone fireplace used for cooking and heating the house, and furnished with only a table and a few chairs. Most families went to bed early since there was only fire or lamplight. They would sleep on mattresses stuffed with oak leaves and had scraps of cloth made into quilts. Almost all of the food that the farm families ate had to be raised themselves. They planted fruits and vegetables. They raised cows for milk, butter, and cheese, and raised chickens for eggs. For meat, they raised hogs. Also, sheep were raised for their wool, which was made into clothes. Often, these families faced problems on the farm. Sometimes, they didn't have enough to eat because their chickens and hogs got eaten by wolves, or their gardens were raided by deer, rabbits, and raccoons. Also, the health of the farm families could be threatened at any time since no doctors were nearby. By the 1900s, many things had changed about farming in the Midwest and in America. Less than half of all Americans lived on farms, while the average size of a farm tripled. Farmers still wanted to be self-sufficient. Being self-sufficient means doing everything necessary to take care of yourself. But now, instead of just raising enough food to feed their own families, farmers could produce enough food to feed many other families across the country. Supplying many other families with food meant that farmers could make money. This money could be used to expand their farms with more land and buy newly produced farm machinery to aid in working the land. Now, farmers were beginning to grow more food with less effort. The family farm improved in many ways. Tents, log cabins, and sod homes gave way to farmhouses made with milled lumber. Fireplace cooking was replaced with cooking on a wood-burning iron stove, and preserving food became more efficient with the canning method. Canning means preserving food by cooking and sealing it in cans or jars. Today, farming has improved even further. Fertilizers and pesticides nurture and protect crops, while large, powerful gasoline machines are used to harvest the crops. Even with 200 years of improvements, some things about farming have stayed the same. Farming is still risky. Farmers still see good times and bad times. And farming is still a lot of hard work. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed experiencing the farm life of the Midwest settlers. Before we go, let's review what we've learned. A log cabin was usually the first farmhouse the settlers of the Midwest would have built. It had one room, one door, and a few windows with very little furniture inside. In 1800, farmers worked the land with their muscles and basic tools and barely raised enough food for their own families. Today, farmers use powerful machinery and advanced fertilizers to grow more crops easier and raise enough food to feed many families. In 1800, farmers bought very little and raised what they needed. Today, farming is a big business, allowing farmers to make money and buy what they need. Farming still has many risks and is still hard work. Have you had fun today discovering the first families of the Midwest? I hope you join me next time as we continue exploring new, exciting adventures throughout history.